Toghon Temür, also known by the temple name Hui Song bestowed by the northern Yuan dynasty in Mongolia and by the posthumous name Shundi bestowed by the Hongwu, emperor of the Ming dynasty China, was a son of Toghon Kusala who ruled as emperor of the Yuan dynasty. Apart from Emperor of China, he is also considered the last Khagan of the Mongol Empire, although it was only nominal due to the division of the empire at the start of the Yuan dynasty. During the last years of his reign, the Yuan was overthrown by the Red Turban Rebellion, which established the Ming dynasty. Although the Mongols remained in control of Mongolia, Emperor Hui Song was a Buddhist student of the Karmapas and is considered a previous incarnation of the Tai Sitapa. He also notably invited the Jonang savant Dolpopa Sherab Jayazen to teach him, but was rebuffed. Before succession, Toghon Temür was born to Kusala, known as Toghon or Emperor Mingzong, when he was in exile in Central Asia. Toghon Temür's mother was Malariti, descendant of Arslan, the chief of the Karluks. Following the civil war known as the War of the Two Capitals that broke out after the death of Yeson Temür in 1328, Toghon Temür attended his father and entered Shangdu from Mongolia. However, after Kusala died and his younger brother was restored to the throne as Jrtu Khan Tufdima, he was kept from the court and was banished to Goryeo and later to Guangxi in South China. While he was in exile, his stepmother Babusha was executed. When Emperor Wenzong died in 1332, his widow Budashiri respected his will to make the son of Kusalas succeed to the throne instead of Wenzong's own son, Elteguz. However, it was not Toghon Temür but his younger half-brother Rinkenbal, who was enthroned as Rinkenbal Khan. However, he died only 2 months into his reign. The de facto ruler, Temür, attempted to install Elteguz as emperor but was stopped by Dowager Empress Budashiri. As a result, Toghon Temür was summoned back from Guangxi. Temür feared that Toghon Temür, who was too mature to be a puppet, would take arms against him since he was suspected of the assassination of Toghon Temür's father, Emperor Mingzong. The enthronement was postponed for 6 months until Temür died in 1333. In 1333, Toghon Temür first met Lady Gi, a Korean concubine with whom he fell deeply in love with. Lady Gi had been sent to China sometime in the late 1320s as human tribute, as the Korean kings were required to send a certain number of beautiful teenage girls to serve as concubines to their overlords, the emperors of China. Reign struggles. During the early reign, the new emperor appointed his cousin Elteguz crown prince as he was ward of Elteguz's mother Budashiri. But he was controlled by warlords even after Temür's death. Among them, Bayan of the Murkid became as powerful as Temür had been. He served as minister of the Secretariat and crushed a rebellion by Temür's son. During his despotic rule, he made several purges and also suspended the imperial examination system. When Toghon Temür tried to promote Lady Ki to secondary wife, which was contrary to the standard practice of only taking secondary wives from Mongol clans, it created such opposition at court to this unheard-of promotion for a Korean woman that he was forced to back down. In 1339, when Lady Ki gave birth to a son, whom Toghon Temür decided would be his successor, he was finally able to have Lady Ki named his secondary wife in 1340. As Toghon Temür matured, he came to disfavor Bayan's autocratic rule. In 1340 he allied with Bayan's nephew Toghon, who was in discord with Bayan, and banished Bayan in a coup. He also removed Elteguz and Budashiri from court. He also managed to purge officials that had dominated the administration with the help of Toghon. Administrations during the middle reign. With the dismissal of Bayan, Toghon seized the power of the court. His first administration clearly exhibited fresh new spirit. The young leader was quick to distinguish his regime as something wholly different from Bayan's. A new Chinese era name, Zhejiang, was decreed to show this. Baiyan's purges were called off. Many of the great Chinese literati came back to the capital from voluntary retirement or from administrative exile, and the imperial examination system was restored. Toghon also gave a few early signs of a new and positive direction in central government. One of his successful projects was to finish the long-stalled official histories of the Liao, Qin and Song dynasties, which were eventually completed in 1345. Toghon resigned his office with the approval of Toghon Temür in June 1344, which marked the end of his first administration. The several short-lived administrations that followed from 1344 and 1349 would develop an agenda very different from Toghon's. In 1347, the emperor forced Toghon into Gansu with assistance from former officers of Kusala and Yesan Temür. In 1349, Emperor Huizong recalled Toghon, which began Toghon's second and very different administration. Disorder during the late reign. Since the late 1340s, people in the countryside suffered from frequent natural disasters, droughts, floods and the ensuing famines. The government's lack of effective policy led to a loss of the support from people. Illicit salt dealers who were disaffected with the government's salt monopoly raised a rebellion in 1348. It triggered many revolts around the empire. Among them, the Red Turban Rebellion, which started in 1351, grew into a nationwide turmoil. In 1354, when Toghon led a large army to crush the Red Turban rebels, Toghon Temür suddenly dismissed him for fear of betrayal. It resulted in Toghon Temür's restoration of power on the one hand and a rapid weakening of the central government on the other. He had no choice but to rely on local warlords' military. He gradually lost his interest in politics and ceased to intervene in political struggles. His son Ayushiridar, who became crown prince in 1353, attempted to seize power and came to conflict with Toghon Temür's aides who dominated politics instead of the Khan. During this time, the emperor lost interest in the affairs of state, and power increasingly come to be exercised by Lady Qi. For her part, Lady Qi, who had a special office devoted entirely to imposing taxes for her own personal use, became known for her corruption and lavish spending on palaces and luxury goods, becoming a much-hated figure. In Korea itself, Lady Qi's family, who all enjoyed influential positions thanks to her influence, were equally hated for their corruption as much as Lady Qi was. In China, Chief Cardinal Jacob and his minister persuaded Ayushiridar to overthrow the latter. Toghon Temür was unable to conciliate the dispute but executed the minister. In 1364, the Shaanxi-based warlord Boulard Temür occupied Khan Balik and expelled the crown prince from the winter base. In alliance with the Henan-based warlord Ko Temür, Ayushiridar defeated Boulard Temür in the next year. This internal struggle resulted in further weakening of political and military power of the central government. In 1365, Toghon Temür finally promoted his much-beloved Lady Qi to first empress, and announced that his son by her would be the first in the line of succession. Relations with other nations. Avignon papacy. Pope John XXII and Pope Benedict XII successfully extended a network of Catholic churches throughout the Mongol Empire from Crimea to China between 1317 and 1343. The Archbishop of Khanbali, John of Montecorvino, died in 1328. With the backing of the Toghon Temür, the Alans wrote to Pope Benedict XII in 1336 asking for a new metropolitan. In 1338, the Pope sent back the embassy headed by Giovanni de Marignoli, who stayed at Beijing 3 or 4 years. They brought gifts for Toghon Temür that included fine European horses. Japan. When the Koreans captured a Japanese fishing ship they thought was spying, the Goryeo court sent it to their overlord, the Yuan Emperor Toghon Temür, who then sent the fishermen back to Japan. In reply, the Ashikaga shogunate sent an embassy led by a monk to express its gratitude, retreat to the north, unifying rebel groups in southern China and establishing the Ming dynasty. Zhu Yuanzhang, crowned as the Hongwu Emperor, conducted military expeditions to North China and defeated the Yuan army in 1368. When Toghon Temür lost battles against the Ming general Zhu Da and Ming troops approached Hebei, Toghon Temür gave up Khan Balik and fled to his summer base, Shangdu. In 1369, when Shangdu also fell under the Ming's occupation, Toghon Temür fled northward to Yingchang, which was located in present-day Inner Mongolia. He died there in 1370. His son succeeded him as Bailigtu Khan Ayushiridara and retreated to Karakoram in the same year. The Yuan remnants ruled Mongolia and continued to claim the title of Emperor of China, from which point they are referred to as the Northern Yuan dynasty. At the time of his death, the Mongolia-based empire maintained its influence, stretching the domination from the Sea of Japan to Altai Mountains. There were also pro-Yuan, anti-Ming forces in Yunnan and Guizhou. Even though its control over China had not been stable yet, the Ming considered that the Yuan lost the mandate of heaven when it abandoned Khan Balik, and that the Yuan was overthrown in 1368. The Ming did not treat Toghon Temür after 1368 and his successor Ayushiridara as legitimate emperors. The Ming gave Toghon Temür the posthumous name Shundi, which implied that he followed the mandate of heaven, ceding his empire to the Ming. But the Northern Yuan dynasty gave him their own posthumous name Shanren Pu Xiaowangdi and temple name Huisong. Even after Toghon Temür, there was still Yuan resistance to the Ming in the south. In southwestern China, Baisala Warmoth, the self-styled Prince of Liang, established a Yuan resistance movement in Yunnan and Guizhou that was not put down until 1381. Legacy. Mongolian chronicles such as the Erdene Topshi include a poem known as the Lament of Toghon Temür. It deals with his grieving after the loss of Khan Balik. Depiction in art and media. The Korean TV dramas Shindon and Empressky. The film A Frozen Flower, which features a depiction of Toghon issuing a decree to the Korean king, Xuan Qi Wangdi Zhu Yuanzhang, founding emperor of Ming dynasty.